Hey everyone! You hear it all the time, right? That getting wealthy is all about passive income, fancy cars, and spending big. But what if that's all just a big misunderstanding? Today, we are going to dig deep into the psychology of money to uncover a way simpler and more powerful formula for a life that's actually truly rich. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's just kick things off with a pretty bold statement. What if passive income is basically a scam? I mean, the whole idea behind this is that the dream of just making money while you sleep, it's mostly a distraction. In reality, there are really only two ways to build true wealth. Either you increase what you earn through a lot of hard work and sacrifice, or you learn to decrease what you want. All right, so if chasing a bigger bank account isn't really the goal, then what should we be aiming for? What is the real path to financial freedom? Let's break that down. Here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to expose some of the biggest myths around spending and happiness. Then, we'll dive right into the psychology of why we make the financial decisions we do. And finally, we're going to reveal a brand new formula for wealth that totally reframes how you think about saving money. First up, let's tackle the biggest myth of them all, this idea that a bigger house or a flashier car is somehow going to solve all our problems. As you're about to see, the connection between how much we spend and how happy we actually are is surprisingly weak. You know, so much of the time when we spend money, it's not a logical decision, is it? It's more like this psychological itch that we're just desperate to scratch. We buy things to signal that we're successful or to quiet our insecurities, or honestly, just to keep up with the neighbors. And how powerful is this pull? Well, get this. One study found that when somebody wins the lottery, their neighbor's chance of going bankrupt actually goes up. We are constantly comparing ourselves, and a lot of the time, it's to our own detriment. And all this emotional spending, well, it's basically being run by these invisible programs, these scripts that are running in our heads. Our past experiences with money, especially our fears, are often calling the shots on our financial choices without us even having a clue. A really powerful example of this is something called post-traumatic broke syndrome. It describes a person who, say, grew up with very little, becomes really successful, but they stayed terrified of spending any money. The fear of going back to being poor is so deep that they literally can't enjoy the wealth they've built. It's that psychological itch again, only this time it's caused by a scar from the past. And this really gets to the heart of a super important difference: utility versus status. Utility is what an item does for you. Status is what it signals to other people about you. Ask yourself this question. If you were stranded on a deserted island and nobody was watching, would you rather have a Lamborghini or a pickup truck? Come on, you'd pick the truck. Every time, you'd pick what's actually useful. And that's the trap, right? That chase for status, it pulls us into this game that is literally impossible to win. We get caught in this endless arms race of buying bigger and better things, but there's no finish line because the goalposts are always moving. You know, the comedian Jimmy Carr has this absolutely brilliant way of putting it. In your 20s, you're obsessed with what other people think of you. In your 30s, you kind of stop caring what anybody thinks. And then, in your 40s, you have this big realization. Nobody was ever thinking about you in the first place. They were all just too busy worrying about themselves. So, when our relationship with money gets this broken, it can lead to two really dangerous addictions. And what's wild is that they look like total opposites, but they're really just two sides of the same messed up coin: compulsive spending and compulsive saving. So you've got the compulsive spender on one hand, they just can't stop buying stuff. And then you have the compulsive saver, who can't bring themselves to spend a dime, even after a lifetime of hard work. But here's the thing. In both cases, the person isn't in control. The money is. It's like they're a marionette and their money is pulling all the strings. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the problems. Enough of that. What's the actual solution? Well, it all comes down to a really simple, elegant formula for what a truly rich life really looks like. The big idea here is that true wealth, it isn't a number in your bank account. It's actually a formula, and it's simple: independence plus purpose. This is the core concept, the key to unlocking a genuinely rich life with the money you already have. Okay, so let's break that down. First, independence. Now, this isn't about just retiring and sitting on a beach somewhere. It's about having control over your own time. It's the freedom to do what you want, when you want, with whoever you want, for as long as you want. That is the greatest luxury that money can ever buy. But here's the catch. Independence all by itself isn't the whole answer. Without a purpose, all that freedom just turns into boredom pretty fast. You need a reason to get up in the morning that's bigger than just yourself, whether that's your family, your community, or doing meaningful work. Purpose is what gives all that freedom, well, its meaning. So, how do we actually get there? Well, it all starts by totally changing how we think about the act of saving. Saving is not about deprivation, it's an act of empowerment. You aren't just saving money, you are actively buying something really important. Think of it this way, every single dollar you save is a little piece of your own future that you now own. And the flip side, every dollar of debt you have is a piece of your future that somebody else owns. When you save, you are literally buying back your own freedom, $1 at a time. And you know, the great thing is, this isn't some all-or-nothing goal. Independence exists on a spectrum. It's like a ladder you can climb. At first, maybe saving just gives you the flexibility to handle a car repair without stressing. Then, it gives you the security to leave a job you hate and find a better one. Each step you take up this ladder gives you more control and more options in your life. There's this really beautiful story that captures this whole idea perfectly. It's about an author's grandmother-in-law. She lived this incredibly happy life on a tiny, tiny income, simply because she wanted what she already had. Her joy came from her garden, her family, and watching the sunset, things that more money just can't make any better. The real secret to wealth isn't about having more, it's about wanting less. So, we want to leave you with this one question to think about. If you could strip away all the social pressure, all the need to impress other people, if nobody, and I mean nobody, was watching, what kind of life would you actually build for yourself? Answering that question is the first real step toward finding true wealth. Thanks for joining us.